Before we explore how France became both the battleground and the bleeding heart of World War I, hit that subscribe button and support Shadow Force, where we uncover the true cost of global
In
power.
every war zone, in every era, the United States military has stood at the edge of history. From the smoke of independence to the steel of global war, America's power was built through conflict, sacrifice, and strategy. This is Shadow Force, your mission briefing on the rise of American military power, the wars that shaped it, and the tactics that still echo today. Subscribe now and enter the front lines of real history.
When the war began in August 1914, France was prepared, but not for what was coming. Within days, German armies stormed across Belgium and into northern France. Cities, fields, and homes became war zones. For France, the war wasn't just national, it was personal. This was a fight for survival on their own soil. French strategy at the start relied on quick offensives, but the German army was faster and deadlier than expected. French troops were pushed back rapidly, yet by early September 1914 at the First Battle of the Marne, French forces stopped the German advance just outside Paris. It was a brutal and heroic stand. They had saved the capital and the war. With movement impossible, French soldiers, like their British allies, dug deep. From 1914 to 1918, northern France became a web of trenches, craters, and constant shell fire. Mud, blood, and barbed wire. Months of waiting, minutes of horror. Whole towns reduced to ruins. France was not just fighting at the front, it was being consumed by the front. Unlike Britain or the US, France was under siege from the very first day. Every corner of French society was mobilized. Civilians evacuated or lived under shell fire. Women ran farms and factories. Cities rationed food, fuel, and hope. The French government relocated from Paris, fearing its fall. But the French people refused to collapse. In 1916, the Germans launched their deadliest assault yet, Verdun. It was meant to bleed France white. For 10 months, French and German troops fought over a patch of land no bigger than a small town. Verdun was pure horror. 300,000 dead, over 700,000 wounded, endless artillery bombardment. But France held. General Pétain's words rang across the trenches. They shall not pass. The war shook the French government and high command. General Joffre lost favor after early failures. General Nivelle promised a breakthrough in 1917, but his offensive failed catastrophically, leading to mutinies among exhausted troops. France needed new direction. General Philippe Pétain restored discipline and morale, not through fear but rest, pay, and trust. His leadership helped stabilize France when its army was near collapse. Across the Atlantic, the suffering of France struck a chord. American newspapers told stories of heroic resistance and devastating loss. President Wilson remained neutral, but American citizens funded French hospitals, donated ambulances, and joined volunteer units like the Lafayette Escadrille, a squadron of U.S. pilots flying for France. France became the emotional heart of the Allied cause, and the U.S. slowly edged closer. France wasn't alone. It was part of the Triple Entente with Britain and Russia. But the alliance wasn't always smooth. British commanders clashed with French generals. Russia's collapse in 1917 left France exposed. Italy struggled, and Belgium was overrun. Still, France coordinated massive offensives, hoping to wear down the enemy until the U.S. could arrive. In April 1917, the United States finally entered the war. For France, it was a moment of salvation. President Wilson called it a war to end all wars. But for France, it was the first break in the nightmare. American troops, doughboys, arrived in waves. They trained on French soil, used French weapons, and fought alongside French forces in some of the fiercest battles of the war. Germany's spring offensives in 1918 brought chaos. They struck hard before American forces could fully arrive. French armies fell back, but didn't break. In July 1918, with American and British help, France turned the tide at the Second Battle of the Marne. Then came the 100 Days Offensive. France led the charge across old battlefields, driving German troops back, inch by inch. On November 11, 1918, the war ended. France was victorious, but nearly destroyed. Over 1.3 million French soldiers were dead. Entire regions, Alsace, Lorraine, Champagne, the Somme, were cratered wastelands. Villages vanished. Forests were poisoned by gas and shrapnel. The victory came at a terrible cost, and it reshaped France forever. After the war, France honored the U.S. as a savior. Streets in Paris were renamed. Monuments were built to American soldiers. But deep inside, France knew, without the U.S., it might not have survived. This bond laid the groundwork for a complex future. Allies in 2 world wars, divided at times, yet bound by blood spilled in French soil. France's role in World War I was unique. It was the front line, the battleground, and the soul of the war. It endured invasion, humiliation, and devastation, yet emerged defiant and proud. And as we trace America's rise as a superpower, we must remember, it stood on ground first soaked in French sacrifice. France held the line when the world was falling apart. It paid the price in flesh and fire. Next, we move to Russia, the Eastern Storm, the empire that fought and fell. Subscribe, comment, and share Shadow Force, because history isn't just what happened, it's what shaped us.
If you believe military history shaped our world, then you've already joined the force. Hit like, subscribe, and share the mission. Shadow Force continues, and the next chapter awaits.